Very good morning to everyone watching Mamaruga Gasabo Television. Thank you for being with us. You're going to be with me, Kamikaze Jisen. Now let's kick off the news headlines. General Nzamwita presents credentials to President Putin. Rwandan engineer contingent arrives in Jamaica. On the international news, flooding killed at least 10 in South Africa, triggering the closure of Kruger Park. Now let's take a short break. We'll be back on the news details. Welcome back. This is news in Rwanda. Major General Joseph Nzamwita formally presented his letters of credence to Russian President Vladimir Putin on January 15, 2026, accrediting him as Rwandan ambassador extraordinarily and plenipotentially to the Russian Federation during a ceremony at the Kremlin in Moscow. President Putin, speaking at the event, welcomed the new diplomats from several African nations and reaffirmed Russia's commitment to expanding political, economic, and humanitarian cooperation with African countries. Nzamwita, appointed Rwanda's ambassador designate in December 2024, succeed General Musyoka Manzi, who had served in Moscow since 2019. Before his diplomatic role, Nzamwita served as presidential advisor on security and Secretary General of Rwanda's National Intelligence and Security Services. Rwanda and Russia have maintained diplomatic relations since 1963 with cooperation spanning political, military, educational, and cultural ties. Moving ahead, the Jamaican government have welcomed more than 100 soldiers from the Rwanda Defense Force deployed to support the recovery effects following the devastation caused by Hurricane Melissa. The disaster struck Jamaica between October 21 and November 4, 2025, causing extensive damage to infrastructure due to powerful winds, heavy rainfall, and lightning. The RDF engineering team arrived on the island on Wednesday evening and was initially received by the Jamaica Defense Force by an official welcoming ceremony at the Caribbean Military Academy. The event was presided over by Jamaica's Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade, Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith. Senator Johnson-Smith thanked President Paul Kagame, the government of Rwanda, and the Rwandan people for their timely support, praising the RDF engineers' professionalism and experience. Speaking on behalf of RDF leadership, Colonel Claudia Bizimungu reaffirmed Rwanda's commitment to assisting Jamaica's recovery and promoting international cooperation. RDF engineers led by Colonel Moses Kaigamba will work closely with Jamaican authorities on infrastructure repair and disaster recovery projects. Turning to the next story, an Egyptian investor, Hesham Ghazal, has expressed interest in establishing a leather processing plant in Rwanda, signaling potential growth in the country's leather sector. During his visit, Ghazal met with members of the Rwandan Leather Association to discuss sustainable investment prospects, particularly value addition in height and skill from both short and long-haired animals. He said the quality of locally made leather products had boosted his confidence to invest in the country. Ghazal noted that he's involved in multiple sectors, including healthcare and livestock, and plans to partner with the Rwanda Leather Association. The association president, Kamaire Sejandamo, welcomed the interest, citing supportive government policies and President Paul Kagame's effort to attract investors. The proposed investment is expected to create jobs, enhance skills, increase production, and reduce imports while strengthening growing trade ties between Rwanda and Egypt. Now let's take a short break to be back on the international news. Welcome back on the international news. Flooding triggered by torrential rains in northeastern South Africa claimed at least 10 lives overnight and forced the closure of the iconic Kruger National Park. Tumukunde Sandra has more to this story.
Let's start on international news in Africa. The Weather Service issued the maximum warning for more rain in parts of the country, while neighboring Mozambique was also on alert after flooding that inundated roads and homes. 9 people died in a village in South Africa's Limpopo province near Kruger, a province spokesperson told AFP. Images released by South Africa's National Defense Force showed a military helicopter airlifting stranded residents from trees. The neighboring Mpumalanga province rescuers on Thursday recovered the body of a woman who drowned while trying to cross the river. At least 19 people have died in Mpumalanga since the rains began in November, province spokesperson Freddie Ngobe told AFP. The Kruger National Park, a premier destination for wildlife tourism, had to evacuate 6 bush camps and some tended camps, the park's communication director later Kuli told AFP. Turning to our next story, Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado gave her Nobel Peace Prize medal to US President Donald Trump on Thursday during a White House meeting in a bid to influence his efforts to shape a country's political future. A White House official confirmed that Trump intends to keep the medal. In a social media post on Thursday evening, Trump wrote, "Maria presented me with her Nobel Peace Prize for the work I have done. Such a wonderful gest of mutual respect. Thank you, Maria." Machado's attempt to sway Trump came after he dismissed the idea of installing her as Venezuela's leader to replace the deposed Nicolas Maduro. Now, concluding our international news, Hamas said on Tuesday that the Gaza ceasefire plan cannot proceed to its second phase as long as Israel persists and called on mediators to pressure Israel to respect the agreement. The US-sponsored ceasefire in effect since October 10th halted the war that began after Hamas's deadly attack on Israel on October 7th, 2023. But it remains fragile as Israel and Hamas accused each other almost daily of breaches. Meanwhile, an Israeli official said that authorities would allow the alien by crossing on the Israeli-controlled border between Jordan and the occupied West to reopen on Wednesday to aid trucks destined for Gaza for the first time since the late September. Under the terms of the deal, Palestinian militants committed to releasing the remaining 48 living and dead captives held in the territory. All of the hostages have so far been released except for one body. In exchange, Israel has released nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners in its custody and returned the bodies of hundreds of dead Palestinians. The first phase of the truce also stipulates that significant humanitarian aid enter to Gaza. This is the end of our international news. My name is Sandra Tumukuni and this is Mama Rwanda TV.
As we come to the end of the news edition, let's remind you of the top stories that we talked about. The Rwanda-Jamaica presents credentials to President Putin. Rwandan engineer contingent arrives in Jamaica. On the international news, flooding killed at least 10 in South Africa, triggering the closure of Kruger Park. And this marks the end. Stay tuned.